Good morning, grade 4. This is Mrs. DiMadera speaking. And today we're going to start our work packet, the part 2 that was available at the school last week. So we're going to start here with lesson 15, and it's about formal and informal language. So we're going to learn what that is and how we use that every day. Let's take a look at the introduction. You probably don't think much about the words you use or the way you speak when you're talking with friends. You probably take shortcuts using contractions, one-word answers, and incomplete sentences. You might even use slang expressions such as hey, cool, and awesome. Well, what does that mean? Let's take a look here. We have informal language. That's the words, the language you use when you're with friends or in social or casual situations. So that means when you're at the park or the playground at a party, how do you speak to your friends? So we may use shortcuts. Instead of saying you are so cool, you may write just the letter U for the word you. You might write just the letter R for the word are, just to kind of make it a shorter sentence to write. So this is informal language. You wouldn't use this kind of language, you are so cool, when writing to a teacher or a parent. You would use the word you and the word are. Also, another part of informal language is when you're using a lot of contractions. So instead of saying you are so cool, you might write or say you're so cool. Also, incomplete sentences. Instead of saying you are welcome, in formal language you might say no problem. And the last I have here is slang expressions. The text said slang expressions include words like hey, cool, or awesome. So let's go back here and read informal language. Informal language, let's highlight that, is the language you use with friends in small group discussions or in casual situations. So I'm going to highlight here friends in small group discussions. Here is an example of informal language. This is a conversation between two friends, and they're talking on the playground. Ben says, hey, how was the field trip? Sachi says, pretty neat, dude. Like the museum's got all this totally cool stuff. Cool old stuff. So when I look here, let's find the informal language. Up top here, we have informal language includes slang expressions such as hey, cool, and awesome. Ben uses the word hey. And Sachi uses the word those words totally cool. I would use the words totally cool with a friend, but not with my teacher or my boss. Also, we said that informal language may have incomplete sentences. When Ben asks Sachi, how was the field trip? His response was, pretty neat, dude. There we have an incomplete sentence. So let's take a look at formal language. Formal language is the language you use in school or in other important situations. When you use formal language, you use words correctly and speak in complete sentences. So let's highlight what's important here. Formal language is the language we use in school or other important situations. When I look back here at my chart that I created, let's take a look at formal language. We use it in school with teachers or other important people or important situations. And in formal language, you want to make sure that words are spelled correctly. So that means that means to use the term going to instead of the slang expression gonna. So here's an example. If I'm with my friends, I might say, I'm gonna go to the park. But in formal language, if I was talking to a teacher or a principal, I would say, I'm going to go to the park. So gonna is not spelled correctly. It's a slang term. It's not pronounced correctly. It's going to. Also with formal language, you want to make sure that you're using complete sentences. So instead of saying, what's up, you would write or say, how are you doing? Okay, so let's go back over to our example here for formal language. This is from Jacob's report about the class field trip. It says, on Monday, we visited the North Carolina Museum of History. We were able to visit many interesting exhibits about the history of our state. So let's look for the formal language here. I see there are two complete sentences. Here is one. On Monday, we visited the North Carolina Museum of History. The second sentence is, we were able to visit many interesting exhibits about the history of our state. So here we have complete sentences. Also, I noticed that instead of using the word cool or awesome here, it says we were able to visit many interesting exhibits. So they used formal language. They used the word interesting instead of saying we were able to visit many cool exhibits or many awesome exhibits. They used formal language, interesting exhibits. So now that we know the difference between informal and formal language, let's go down to the guided practice. We're going to do this together. So the guided practice says, read each sentence. Label the sentence either F for formal or I for informal. Then talk with a partner about a situation or setting in which the language might be appropriate. So at any time, you can pause the video if you want time to think or speak to a partner. Let's take a look here at the side box, and it says hint. More serious occasions and fancy settings require formal language. Formal language is also used to show respect for others, such as teachers or bosses. So let's take a look at number one. Number one says, at the museum, we saw a full-size model of the 1903 Wright Flyer. So our job here is to decide, are we going to write an F for formal or an I for informal? So some of the things we should be thinking about is, does this sentence have any slang expressions like hey, awesome, or cool? Is this sentence a complete sentence? Is this sentence, does the sentence have a lot of contractions in it? So let's take a look. I see a full complete sentence. Also, I don't see any slang language or contractions. So what do you think? Me too. I'm thinking this is going to be a formal sentence. It includes formal language. So I'm going to put the letter F there for formal. So now let's look at number two. It says, man, I can't believe the model wasn't the real thing. So let's take a look. Our job is to decide, is this a formal or informal sentence? Do we hear any slang expressions? Like, hey, awesome. Do we hear or see contractions? Is it a complete sentence? So let's take a look. The sentence starts with, man, I can't believe the model wasn't the real thing. Well, I wouldn't go to a teacher and say, man. So here I hear a slang expression. Also, there are two contractions in the sentence, can't and wasn't. So what do you think this sentence would be? I agree. This is an informal sentence. So we're going to put an I there for informal. Let's look at number three. The first successful flight took place in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Again, we want to think, was this a complete sentence? Are the words spelled correctly? Did we hear any slang expressions? I agree. This sentence is a formal sentence. It is a complete sentence and uses correct spelling. Let's look at number four. What a short flight. Just 12 seconds, but so awesome. So what are some things you've noticed? I noticed they use the word awesome, and awesome is a slang expression, words that we would use with our, you're right, friends. So let's put an I here for informal, because this is an informal sentence, something you would say to a friend. Let's look at number 5. Orville and Wilbur Wright had invented the first airplane, and now people could fly. Is this a sentence I would say to my teacher or my friend? Is it a complete sentence? Yes. Does it have any misspelled words? No. Does it have any slang expressions? No. Is it have a lot of contractions? No. So what are we thinking? If you thought formal, you are correct. This is a formal sentence. Okay, so now that we've done our guided practice, let's scroll on down to the independent practice. Independent means that you try this on your own. Okay, so here we have independent practice. And I'm going to read the directions to you and go over what each is asking, but then I want you to try it on your own. So the first part of the directions say, for numbers 1 and 2, in which situation or setting would you use formal language? So we know here that this is just, these directions are just for numbers 1 and 2. So that means when I'm looking at number 1, I want to use these directions. When I'm looking at number 2, I want to use these directions. So they want to know which one of these situations or settings would you use formal language. So remember, formal language is language you use when you're speaking to teachers or bosses. They're complete sentences, and you'll be using complete sentences and correct language. So number 1 says, would you use formal language at at a family cookout, B, speaking in front of the class, C, making plans with friends, or D, at summer camp? Number 2 says, would you use formal language at A, at the beach, B, at a soccer game, C, speaking to a mayor or other official, or D, talking about a movie with a friend? So let's look at number 3. For number 3, which sentence is the most formal request? Okay, so we're looking for a formal sentence. Number 3, choice A says, can I go see the coolest movie ever with my friends? B, it would be super cool for me to see a movie with my friends, okay? C, may I please go to see a movie with my friends? Or D, let me go see a movie with my friends, please. Let's look at number 4. The directions for number 4 are the same for number 5. So it says here for numbers 4 and 5. So I'm going to highlight here 4 and 5 have the same directions. In which situation or setting would you use informal language? So remember, informal language is the way you would speak to a friend. Number 4 says A, sharing a project at a science fair, B, sharing great news with your family, C, presenting a report in your class, D, asking a librarian to help find a book. So which of these is a situation or setting where you would use informal language? Number 5, your choices are A, at an event honoring your aunt or uncle, B, asking a police officer for directions, C, speaking with the school principal, or D, at a baseball practice with your friends. Which one of these situations would you use informal language? After you've completed the independent practice, please take a picture and send it to me through Class Dojo. so that I can see how you're doing with your formal and informal language understanding. Okay, thank you. Bye.